So if you bought a home before 2024, you probably heard something about this big shakeup in how real estate commissions work. Maybe you caught a headline, you thought, well, that kind of sounds like a mess, and just kept scrolling. Totally understandable. But if you're thinking about buying or selling anytime soon, that headline probably only told you part of the story. And the part it left out kind of matters. Hey there, I'm Bret Johnson, associate broker with Realty Network Group at Real Broker, and I specialize in making real estate really easy. So let me give you the real picture of what changed, what didn't, and what it kind of means for you moving forward. So back in 2024, the National Association of Realtors settled a major lawsuit. It was everywhere. Buyers started panicking. They thought they would have to write a separate check to their agent on top of their down payment. Sellers, they started celebrating, thinking that they were about to save thousands and no longer pay commissions. The internet had a field day, as it always does, and then everybody just stopped paying attention. So now, most people are still walking around with this version that they had heard in that first 48 hours. And unfortunately, a lot of that version, well, it's either incomplete or it's just not what's actually happening out here in the real world. So let me give you the full picture. Here's what changed. The old system, well, it had a buyer agent compensation built right into the multiple listing service, what we often refer to as the MLS. The MLS is the database that real estate brokers use to market listings to other brokerages. So every listing in the MLS, it had a compensation amount tied to it. This is the part that went away with the lawsuit settlement. Brokers can no longer advertise compensation on the MLS. Now, another big change is that now, before a buyer actually starts viewing homes with an agent, if they're a member of the National Association of Realtors, has to sign a written agreement up front with that agent. That agreement spells out what the agent charges and exactly what services are included. So this actually brings more transparency right from the start. But here's what most people missed entirely. Sellers can still agree to pay the buyer's agent. That option never went away. The rule just changed where and how that conversation happens. And right now, in most transactions, sellers are still covering that fee. The commission collapse that everyone kind of predicted was going to happen, well, it never did. We're still doing business, the market is still moving, and things just look a little bit different on paper. So what do buyers need to know? Well, if you're buying, the biggest thing that you'll notice is that written agreement I mentioned. If you choose to work with a realtor, you'll sign it before you start looking at homes. And it lays out the fee clearly so there's no surprises later. This is actually a good thing. And in most cases, your agent will negotiate a seller contribution to cover that fee as part of your offer. It's the same idea as asking for sellers to cover your other closing costs, things like their lender fees, escrow fees. This is what buyers have been doing for years already. So really, it's just the paperwork that changed. The outcome is typically still the same. Here's a number that says a lot. 88% of buyers last year still used a real estate agent. That number has held steady after all of this change. People, they want someone in their corner, someone who knows the market, that catches what they may miss and ultimately advocates for them. That hasn't changed, and I don't believe that it's going to. So what do sellers need to know? Well, if you're selling, you might be thinking, Bret, can I skip paying the buyer's agent out of pocket and save that money? Technically, yes, you can do that. You always could have done that. But here's what it usually looks like from the buyer side. When a buyer has to come up with extra money out of pocket just to have someone represent them, many of those buyers are going to look at a different listing, possibly down the street, where the seller is willing to cover that extra fee. Because making a home less affordable to buyers can mean fewer showings, probably a smaller buyer pool, and it's usually going to lead to a longer time on market, which tends to push the sale price down. So the money a seller thought you might save up front by not participating with a buyer agent fee ends up costing more on the back end. The sellers that I see do really well right now in this market are the ones that talk through a strategy with their agent, but they look at their specific situation, and then they just position their home to attract as many qualified buyers as possible. So if you haven't bought or sold since any of these changes took effect, or if you're starting to think about make a move, let's have a quick conversation. I want you to feel confident going into it and not surprised during the middle or end of it. Just give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, and let's chat about a strategy that makes your move really easy.